My name is Dirk Van Laak, and I'm professor of modern and contemporary history at the University of Leipzig. I was born in the western parts of Germany, in the Ruhr area, and grew up there, but moved to the eastern parts shortly after the reunification in 1993 and worked there at the University of Jena, and then went back to University of Gießen for 9 years and returned to Leipzig 3 years ago.
Let's talk about the history about the German reunification. What are the stages through which Germany passed to arrive at reunification?
Well, politically, almost nobody foresaw reunification. And especially in Western Germany, most of the people thought it would never happen. And they were quite sure during the 1980s that two German states and nations would exist for the future. Just very few people, West Germans, that really stuck to the idea that Germany should reunite. And as we now know, this was slightly different in eastern parts of Germany, where people always thought there would be a cohesion, there would be a common history to share even in the future, and a lot of East Germans who still were quite well informed what was going on in western parts of Germany, whereas in West Germany very few people had an idea of what was going on in Eastern Germany. So what happened then during the 1980s was a surprise, came as a surprise for most Germans. Some would say in June 1953, where the first uprising took place in Eastern Germany. That was a hint that something was going wrong. Then 1968 was certainly a defining moment. With the uprising in Czechoslovakia, and a lot of East Germans reacting to that as being disappointed about this turn of politics. Then there were quarrels with a lot of members of the East German intelligentsia, and also caused many East German intellectuals to leave the country afterwards. Germans felt that politics in their country would not move forward. Coming closer to the wall falling down, one certainly have to hint at Mikhail Gorbachev and the new politics establishing in the Soviet Union, which a lot of East Germans followed quite with interest, a lot of interest, and many thought that that would lead to a final reform in East German politics. But Erich Honecker and the other leaders were not in favor of Gorbachev and his politics, so they fiercely clutch to the things as they were, and so disappointment rose more and more, and led finally to a closer row of incidents during 1989. So 1981 was Solidarność established, and that was another defining moment that at least hinted at the fact that things could be changed in the Eastern Bloc, that socialism could be reformed in principle. So many East Germans were full of hope that things could move into that direction. in East Germany too, but actually nothing happened until the fall of '89, to be honest, and it was kind of personalized in people like Erich Honecker, who was obviously unable to think about any kind of reform or to admit that things were going wrong in East Germany. And so there was a discrepancy becoming or growing larger and larger between things as they are and were quite obvious to everybody living in East Germany and propagandistic and ideologically conveyed realities in the media, in the official media, and in campaigning, and also presented in that celebration on the Jubilee Day.
So my name is Daniel Schönpflug. I'm a history professor at Free University of Berlin.
What are the internal stages through which Germany passed to arrive at reunification?
It was a long process, and we could say that the process of reunification is not yet fully accomplished. But the first steps were very decisive. And I would say, first of all, of course, it needed a revolution. So the breakdown of the regime of the GDR, and it came through a popular movement. Then next step, and then we are already moving into the mechanics of the reunification, was in the spring and summer of 1990, the unification of the currency, the economic system, and the social system. All three are very important steps because they already set the stage for the political reunification that came later. From that point on, there was only one currency, which was the Deutsche Mark. Also, the economic system of the Bundesrepublik was extended to the eastern part of the country, which also meant that a state-driven economy was overnight abolished, and many of the socialist enterprises and firms or the agricultural communities were dissolved. Many of them either sold or closed down, but all of them transformed into capitalistic enterprises.
This was done before the political unification?
Yes, it was a first step, but as you can see, it is already very, very fundamental in the fact that practically the economic system of the GDR was abolished. That also went along with the unification of the social systems. So retirement plans or health insurance, all these systems that had existed in the East were overnight integrated into the Western system. Of course, not equal conditions, but the responsibility, the social responsibility, was extended from the West to the East. It is really astonishing that the chronology of these steps was economy first and then the political unification. But the logic behind this is actually that we're in a situation of fluidity, huge worries, of course, of the future of even the existence of many people, and these measures were actually there to reassure all those people who were highly concerned with their individual and collective future.